All right. Hoping that you everything's good. We're going to start with unit today, so let me get you started. Um, I'm Susan Hoyt. I'm here in Houston, Texas. I've been teaching computer science and coding for about 25 years now. Um, I have been with Saylor about a year now. I do love teach coding. It's great to see people just see a whole new world open up and really go along with it and get some great opportunities out of it. As a person, I hang out with my dogs, read a good book, sit on a beach, and I'm good to go. All right, so what course are we talking about? We're talking about the JavaScript 1 course, and the link is there, like you said. There's this course this is unit 3 we're looking at. So we've already done unit 1 and 2, and unit 3 is values, variables, and statements. We'll also be continuing and doing 4, 5, and 6 everyone on Tuesday, and we'll let you know those dates and times just to let you know. So here we go. What did we do last week? Last week we covered unit 2, intro to JavaScript. So we went through a whole bunch of JavaScript basics. We talked about different things you could use to type your JavaScript in, stuff like that. We did it live also there if you want to look at it, and make sure you try to work through it for the course, because you really want to try to keep up with us if you're trying to do it, so that way you are in the same spot that we are. Um, for this course, how are you going to get through this course and get certificate? You must score a 70 or above on that course final exam to get that certificate. You can retake the exam as many times as you need to get that 70, but each time you take it and you don't get that 70, you've got to wait until you can take it. We also discussed using Code Runner, which I'm going to show you again today. It will be in the assessment, and it's where you're going to type in the code to actually answer questions, one or two a lot of the times on the test. We also used developer tools last week and ran some code examples on those and did a little bit with that stuff. So it was a lot of introduction. Of course, it was called Intro to JavaScript, so a lot of introductory stuff. All right, so what are we talking about Unit 3? If you start to look at Unit 3 and you started to look through it, it looks like there's a ton of stuff. So I've tried to make it a little bit shorter and pick out some of the more important things. There's just a lot of stuff to JavaScript when you're talking variables, operators, and keywords. There's just a ton in the different values, the data types, the operator, all the JavaScript statements, and the syntax. It's just a lot of stuff together. So I would highly suggest that as you're working through this, you take your time. You might want to take notes. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of reading. In between the reading stuff, I would always go and try it. Get out your IDE or whatever you're going to use and practice what they're showing you, just so that you can do it without having to just watch it. Let's move on. All right, so we're going to start with data types and values. This is our intro to this part. All right, so JavaScript has what's called primitive and object types. Primitive types are immutable, or a lot of people haven't heard from. It's immutable means that it can't change. So when I say that a type is immutable, I don't mean that once you say that my name equals Bob, that you could never change that. You can change the variable that holds a primitive. You can assign it another value. You just won't actually change that original value. Like if I said my name equals Bob, I could later on say my name equals Sally, but I didn't actually Bob's value. I just changed and assigned it another value. To make sense, because I know immutable and mutable is always something that my students are like, wait, what do you mean it can't just changed? So hopefully that'll help you. Types themselves, which we're not really going to touch into this, but in general, for you to know as you're talking about it, their values can change once you create them. JavaScript is dynamically typed language, which means I don't have to define the type of a variable in a program, but that's really not the best practice to do. All right. What are some kind of primitive types that we can talk today? Numbers, strings, Boolean. Those are three that we will touch on, especially the numbers and strings today. Object types, you've got arrays, objects, and functions. These I will briefly maybe show you an example, but these are going to be covered more so later on in the course. Okay. All right. So as you're talking about numbers, you're using whole numbers, which are your integers, absolutely no decimal places or points, sorry. Fractional number, those are going to be your real numbers, and those are going to be your ones that have your floating point. Then we have scientific notation. So if you have a really big or really small, you may remember back, like in scientific notation, you did this 2.998 times 10 to the eighth. That should have been a power up there. I don't know what happened on the slide, but that should have been 10 to the eighth power. Instead of doing this times 10, JavaScript has no idea what that part means. Let's put an E here. And E represents our times 10 to the eighth. All right, mathematical operators. Like I said, there's a lot of content in here. You may need to make notes. You may want to just like take your time, leave the computer for a minute and come back because you will have a lot of content. So mathematical operators, same ones we know forever: plus, minus, division, multiplication, and then you see this one. Go, hold on, are we doing percentages? No, this is a special math operator that we are going to use to do modulus, which is going to be remainder division, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second. Order of operations, same as math. PEMDAS is what my student time, they say PEMDAS. I'm old enough that I remember it as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which they laugh at me when I say that, but still same thing. Your parentheses always go first, your exponents. Multiplication and division are on the same level. And then, of course, you've got your plus and your minus, which I did not put on that slide. All right, so if you're ever in doubt, add parentheses. You know that that will happen. And if you put it there, you know your or one is going to happen. So this percentage is not the percent of a number. So if I say X percent Y, it doesn't mean take the percentage Y is of X or anything like that. It will give you the remainder of X by Y. Example. If I took 144 divided by 12, I would get 12. Okay, that would be my result. But if I took 144 modulus 12, I would get 0 because there's no remainder when I divide 144. So modulus is always going to be the remainder. Modulus is used a lot to see, is this number divisible by another number? And one of the biggest things that you'll see it used whenever you're doing some. Yes.
Sorry to cut you off real quick. Right there when you were doing the example of the module, you kind of cut out a little bit. I couldn't quite hear you, so maybe if we could just jump back to that real quick.
Okay, so where was I at this one?
The example module, yeah.
Okay.
The second to
Okay,
last.
yeah, my internet keeps saying it's unstable, and I'm sorry if I don't want to do anything right now because I don't want to lose y'all.
Yeah, it's cutting a little bit, but I'm trying to keep an eye on it. I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah, let me know because I see it up here and I could switch to my phone, but I just don't mess up our.
No worries.
Let me know if I need to though.
No worries.
Okay.
I'm hopping
Okay.
out of here.
Okay, thanks. All right, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with the internet right now. Okay, the percentage sign, it's modulus. So what is our example of it? Okay, if I took 1 divided by 12, I would get 12. Great. 12 times 12 is 144. But if I took 144 and I did modulus 12, I'm going for the remainder of that. 144 divided by 12 gives me a remainder of 0. So this is always the remainder, and this is just your regular division. Modulus is used a lot to see if a number is divisible by another number. So is something divisible by 12? I would do mod 12. And if I got 0 for a remainder, then yes, it's divisible. X modulus 2, if that's equal to 0, that tells me, oh, wow, that's an even number. If a number modulus 2 is not 0, then it's an even number. So a lot of times you see modulus used in this way. All right, so special numbers that honestly you really don't use. I don't really know of a good example to tell you, but you do see them talked about, is infinity and negative infinity. They represent something? Yes, they do. And are they really infinity? No, because a computer isn't, it's a finite object. So no, they're not really infinity, but they are represented in JavaScript. Should you play around with them and use them a lot? Not, because as you start to do stuff with them, you're going to end up right here where it is not a number. So when you get to a point that you divide by 0, you that says NaN is error, and that means it's not a number. You by 0, so that is considered not a number. Okay, strings are used to represent text, and you enclose them in quotes. So as I look here, you're going, okay, wait, these are quotes, these are quotes, and those are quotes. And guess what? All strings. Look at all 3 of these in an example, and look at some other stuff that I'm showing you right now, an example. My internet connection unstable came up again. Okay. What we want to talk about is escape sequences also, because if I'm trying to display a quote, but my string is enclosed in a quote, I need to have a way to do that. So you will use backslashes. So if I went \n inside a string that says, as I go left to right, I see backslash. The backslash says, okay, look to the right of you, and it says n. Those are kind of connected together. That means go to a new line. So this is a hit enter, new line inside a ring. So I will do this example for you, show you how it looks. If I wanted to display a backslash, then I would have to put 2 backslashes. And notice what it would display would be 1 backslash. On my forward slash, it's just normal. I don't have to put 2 of anything. If I wanted to have a quote, I would have to go \quote, \quotes. And so we'll look at some of these in a little bit and play around with them. I'm going to do a couple of slides, and then we're going to go around with them. The plus operator works on strings also, but not in the same way that it does with numbers. So it concatenates things or glues them together. So if I had these, and these are all strings, and notice I used double quotes on these. I could use single quotes, it still would have worked. These will take all these letters and just glue them together. So it will actually glue it together, and it'll like this whenever I print it out. Strings that use the backticks. Okay, so you go, okay, wait, what's a backtick? Well, on my board, my backtick is underneath the I'm not sure if that's on everyone, but the backtick is there, I promise. It's right by the tilde. So whenever you use these, it's kind of cool because you can do this, and then you see how I kind of have something in here for do. And so by doing these backticks, actually let it execute this. And instead of writing it just like that, it actually writes out. So that's kind of a cool thing with strings. Now we are going to go over to strings, and I'm going to come over here, and we're going to go, I don't know if you remember this, but we went to more tools and we went to developer tools. So there, and you can see right here, I have my my cursor just sitting there waiting for me. So if I were to do some string things, let me get those ready to go. I'm going to do, whoops. Let's do var my name. Say var my name equals, okay. Then if you notice, if I did my name, it says that my name is, it's printed it with the single quotes, but that's okay. Now we're going to talk in a minute because also can do this. Okay. Do you want me to try to get on my phone with this?
I think if we get cut out another time, I think we can try. Let me check something on the back end while you do that.
Okay.
Just 'cause
Okay.
I'm worried we'll lose
Now
the whole meeting if we do that and have to come back entirely. But
oh, that's very true. That's very true. Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Okay. All right.
we'll see.
We'll see. We'll just play it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this again. Okay. So I just did something like my name equals Hoyt. That was what I had typed. And so if I wanted to know what my name held, then my name held Hoyt. Great. That's now I could also do this. My my uh other, let's do other name. Okay, so let's say I did that. Whoops, if I could type, it'd be great. So then my other name, if I hit enter, it has that in it. Now, I'm sure you probably noticed that on one of these I did var and one I did let. Right now, we're not going to talk about what the difference is between those, but I promise you I'm going to come back to that and we're going to talk about when I use them and which one should I use. Because as you go through this course, you'll see there will be some examples that have var and there's some that have let. I want you to make sure you understand about it and how it works. But for right now, if I were to do, let's do this. Let's say if I were going to take my name and I'm going to take, I think I'm going to go to uppercase. Okay, so do you see how my name all in caps? Great. So now I'm going to do my name again. But hold on, I said my name to, great, it did that. But now when I do my name again, it's still what it was from the beginning. So when I told you, you can't actually change it unless you reassign it to something. So I said my name to uppercase. JavaScript did its magic and it took my name and it changed it all to uppercase. But only did it in like a temporary location. It didn't change my name. So if I wanted to change it, I would have to do something like this. Oops. Okay, now my name again. Now it changed it. So doing this doesn't actually change my name and what it's assigned to unless I reassign it to something. So I have to reassign it in order for it to get new values. Okay. Let's go back over here for a second. Whoops, didn't want to go there. So also too, whenever we're doing this, we wanted to look at these three different types of strings. And we have, whoa, and we have strings I'm going to show you, but I'm going to do this in Replit in a second. And we're going to do this part in Replit and we're going to look at how they all look. So we're going to look at all those and then we'll also do these in Replit just because I want to show you how how Replit works with everything. So let's go here and let's go to Replit. I'm already logged in because I have my free account. Now I'm going to create. Now on this one, I like to use their node. Yes, I choose that one. Again, it gives you weird names here. And I don't just keep the weird names. Okay, so now here we are. So if I wanted to do something here, I could say, whoops, and I need to be clicked. So I'm going to say my name. Okay, great. I'm going to say let's, I'm going to call my name too. Let's do that. And let's do a my name 3. Okay, now I'm going to use the back tick. See how they kind of lean back. And okay, I've created all those. If I run it right now, I didn't get any errors. Nothing came out of it. I didn't tell it to do anything. So let's print if they all look different. So I'm going to print my name. And then I'm going to do my name too. Whoop, I could spell. And I'm going to do my name 3. All right, so now let's run and see. We've used all the three different things: double quotes, single quotes, and then the backtick. So let's see what happens. And if you notice, every single string is exactly the same. There's nothing changed, nothing different. So all those represent strings. Now, again, if I wanted to do what we did over there and I wanted to change my name to upper, so I'm going to do it again. And then if I do console my name again, so let's do it. Okay, my name didn't change. Okay. But if I reassign it and I change its assignment to something different, now you will see that it changed. Okay, so that's a huge thing to understand with the strings. Now, as you look over here too, we also talked about, oops, that. Also talked about using these. So \n is a new line. 2 backslashes will display 1 backslash, and that will be a quote. So let's go back over here, and I'm going to do console. All right, I'm going to do a string, and I'm going to put a backslash there. And watch what happens with this. So you see it did, this is A, and then once it saw this backslash, it found its match and it said, oh, that N means for me to go to the next line. So it went to the next line. Notice there's a space here because there's a space between these. If I had done it like this, then the S should be at this line. Okay, so it makes a difference that way. All right, so let's try another one with a quote in the middle. I can have more than one backslash in here. Let's see what happens with that. And you'll see the quote showed up right there. Okay, and let's say I wanted to have 2 backslash. I want 1 backslash to show up, so I have to put 2. Let me say that right. And so see, 1 showed up over here, even though I had 2 over there. A lot of times the pictures, the ASCII art pictures, they'll have you a lot of backslashes, and so it gets kind of weird because you have to do 2 for each one, but it's okay what they use for ASCII art. All right, so we did all, so we're good on all that. We have to come here. We want to talk about concatenating, and then I want to do this. And I'm going to grab it here and see if I can bring it over there without issues. Always be careful when you're copying and pasting stuff. Never know when you're going to have issues. All right, so let's see. I'm going to leave it like that for right now and it runs. Okay, so this is a string with a new line. That happened, but it did it. All right, so let's not copy it from over there. I'm going to try something else, and I'm going to show you what in a second. Oops. Okay, and I need a sample. Okay, it's still not noticing it at all. So let's retype it. So if you have issues like that, so we're going to type half of 100 is, so come back over here. And after we do that, we come back and we say, what are we going to do after that? $, and then our curly braces for that little block. I'm going to put both curly braces there. All right, let's get everything right. We got a back tick. Half of 100 is, and we got our dollar symbol. 100 divided by 2, and then we have our other one to end it. And let's see what happens now. What did I forget to do? Hello. That's what I forgot to do. Hello. Okay, so up half of 100 is 50. Now watch, if I take this and I put these quotes instead of the backticks, it doesn't quite the same. So notice with the backticks, it prints out exactly what's in those quotes. So if I want it to run something like that, then I've got to use the backticks. And it keeps putting 2 and 1 for me. So hold on. In order to make it happen. Oops. Backtick. And get your semicolons. And then again, it does all that for me. All right, let's do a quick concatenation and then we can move on. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put that there right now. I haven't created that yet, but I'm going to create it right here. So I'm going to say, let my word equal, and I'm going to do hello. And then I'm going to do a plus. And I'm going to put there. And I'm going to do how. I'm not going to write how are you because I don't feel like writing all that. But we've got my word. Should add it all together. So let's see what happens. Okay, so hello there, how. Now notice that it basically does exactly what we said where it glues it together, but we needed some spaces. We're going to have to put them in ourselves. Okay, so we'd have to check, see if that's kind of how we want it spaced out. Looks good to me, so we could leave it like that. All right. Did we cover all of our stuff? Yes. So now we want to talk about this. This nice thing where it says, hey, you're using like a string and a number here. Let me try to figure out what data you want and I'll go ahead and fix it. Which sometimes that's great. It's great to have, it's great to use, but we're going to try some of these over here. So I'm going to do some console.logs. Let's get rid of all these. And we're going to start with, oops, 8 times null. Now notice null shows up. It's a reserved word, already has some meaning to script. So when I do that, it says 0. Okay. So great. How about this? How about when I have a string, a number, a minus sign? All right. So let's go try. Let's do a string. And -1. And let's see what happens. Okay, so a string -1 was that. Okay, what if the string was like this though? Instead of the number, what if I did the letter 5? Here's the lovely thing I told you about. It's not a number, it says. So that one wasn't good. All right, so let's go back and let's do number 5 again. Instead of doing a minus, let's do a plus. Now, because it saw that 5 was a string and it said, okay, wait, string has plus that I could use. It says, okay, I'm going to concatenate this because I think that's what you meant. Whereas when we had a minus here and it saw it had a string first, it said, wait, strings don't have any minus operator. So I'm betting you meant for that to be a number. So it has all these ideas and tries to fix stuff for you, which can be helpful, but it can also cause problems. So be careful. And you can see in this example, if we have number and the word, different things can happen. So that's a JavaScript. Hey, I'm going to help you, which, sometimes doesn't always help. All right. So what about our variables? Our variables can be anything from strings and numbers to functions, complex data. When you think of a variable, you want to think of it as a container for the value, not the value itself. So this is my variable that holds Bob. This is another variable I have that holds true. And this is another variable I have that holds a number. So it's just a container, it holds it. I can give it different things to hold, but I don't actually change the things themselves on most of them. All right, so now let's talk about variables. And to use a variable, you need to create it first or declare it. And I did that in a few of those. I did let, and I did it with var. In a little bit, we'll talk more which one you should probably use, but we're still going to let you know as you go through this course, you'll see it used interchangeably. Sometimes you'll see let used, sometimes you'll see var used. And there is a difference, and we'll talk about in a second. All right, all the instructions end semicolon. So if you're just doing single instructions, you don't need to. So if you're just typing in the console like with the strings, you don't necessarily have to do it. It's just a really good practice to get into, because if you don't do it when you're in other stuff, you're going to get some errors. Right. So when I initialize a variable, I'm giving it a value to start with, or an initial value. So when I said my name is Chris, my age is 25, when I said something like that, that's taking that variable I created and value. Or I can do it all in one step, which I did this also. I can say, let my dog equal Rover. And then I have declared it by doing this. This is my declaration. And then this right here is the initializing value. Okay, so I'm going to do some more examples like that with you. We're going to change it. Let me get back over here. All right, so let's do a let. Let's just do let my name. Let's do that. And let's print out what my name is. Let's do what it's for us if we do that. So right now I defined a variable called my name. I didn't give it any kind of thing to hold on to. So it says it's undefined. So after I do that, if I wanted to, I could say now my name equals, forget the semicolons. And then almost forgot to copy this again. All right. So it was undefined whenever I tried to print it the first time. And now it is Hoyt because that's what I gave it. All right. So in case you don't know, I'm going to use these, and notice it changed color. That is a comment. I don't want it out anymore. I'm tired of printing that out. So let's say I wanted to change it another time. Okay, so let's see. I said it was Hoyt, and then I said it was Susan. So let's see what happens when I print this out. So it prints the last one. Okay. When I said my name is Susan, that's the last one it picked up on. It's going in order. That okay, the last thing that my name was holding on to was Susan, so that's the one I'm going to print. Now I could have done it, declared, and set it all in. Let's do this. That would be declaring and analyzing all in one step. So in this case, this was the value of it. So if I took this off, guess what it will print first? Leah, and then it printed Susan. It never printed Hoy because I never had any kind of log in between these. Okay. Let's see, what else do we want to do? Oh, we should do the age. I forgot to do that. So age. Now I'm just gonna leave it like that. And I'm gonna do a log to let you see what happens with a number when we don't give it anything to start with. So I said, let my age, and I'm going to go ahead and comment out that one. And I'm going to comment out this one because I don't need to see those anymore. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Undefined. Okay, so looks like it doesn't know what it is, so it's undefined. So let's give it a value to start with. I could give it a value to start with here. Or if I wanted to just declare it, and maybe person who wants to declare all my variables way at the top, and then I'll give them values later, I could declare it, and then later on I could give it a and there it is, 45 again. Let's see. Is there any other need? I don't think so. I think that's all I want to show now. All right, back to my slideshow real fast. All right. I don't know if you noticed, but as I was saying these, I would say stuff like my name, and the first word is all lowercase. The second word starts with a capital letter. So I can easily see between the words what they mean. I know in some other languages and stuff, people like to put underscores, but this is really a good convention to use for coding. It is called camel case, and it's right here. All names start with a letter. You can't start with a number. They have to start with a letter. Camel case is an easy way for you to tell him, hey, this is where this word, and then if I kept going and I had really long words, I could see each word in the whole thing. Case does matter. So I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to show you this. So what if I typed it like that? Now, I'm already picking it up saying, hey, I don't think you meant that, but let's say I didn't see that. But if I go to run it, it says right here, my age is not defined, because my age with a capital A is a completely different variable than my age with a capital A. So case matters. Case matters all the time. You can't use a reserve word. JavaScript already has meanings for things. So if it like, see how null turned blue like that? See how let turns blue like that? Those mean that they're reserved. So that means you can't name your variable that, and you need to find a different name for it. All right. All right, so now let's talk about some other types. So those were strings and numbers that we looked at. Let's talk about Boolean. Values are values that are either true or false. That's it. Those are the only two things they can be. Now, if I declare it and I assign it, so I declared it and I assigned it all in the line. Notice I used camel case, but I didn't on this one. Capital I on that. All right. True and false do not have quotes around them. All right, so we're going to try a Boolean real fast now. So I'm going to say let's, what did I call it? It means the same one. I am alive. All right, so I am alive equal. Okay, so let's do console log. I am alive. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this other console. That way I don't see that. So I said it was true, and notice true is also reserved words. What if I said false? Shows up false, no big deal, perfect, okay? We did try to put quotes around them. It's gonna make it a string and not a Boolean, so then you're gonna have like probably some errors happen later on. All right, an array. An array is a single object that stores multiples. We're not gonna get into arrays yet. I'm only gonna briefly talk about them. They show you some examples, and you can see them and see how they're used, but we're just not gonna use them quite yet. An object is a structure, and that's also going to be covered later on. All right, constants are variables that can't change. Try this. And if I go constant, notice again word. Oops. What's that? Okay. So if I do console.log, all right, and I'm going to comment out the old one again. A lot of times I comment out stuff that I'm testing just along the way. So that way, if I want to come back, I can try it again. I said the constant days in week is, and then I just said, play that. Okay, now what if I try to do this? Days in, whoop, if I could type equals 8. So right here, I said it was a constant. That constant means that I change it. So notice I got an error. So if I try to change something that's constant, I will get an error and it will not let me do it. So that is a don't change it at all. All right. Okay. So then it gets to an example in action and it does use var in there. I highly suggest, and I'll again tell you why, but in just a little bit, I have a whole little slide on it, but it use var, it's fine, the example rate, but you really should use let. Better to use that now. Var is one of the older kind of JavaScript things that you'll see a lot of examples still use, and let is just the newest thing that you really should be using. On the examples in action, I'm going to go to it really fast because I want to show you it, and I did not save it on here, so you're going to bear with me while I go back. I'm going back to unit 3, and I'm going to come here to our example in action. Here was one of our first ones. This one went through, it was actually about 19 minutes. It was kind of a long video, but this was for the first section. And it actually goes through and talks about a lot of stuff that is talked about more later and gives you great overview of the whole. And then it has us practice this. So this is finishing from 3.1. And it talks about doing something similar to what I did here, what I did earlier with you about the uppercase and changing things. It also gives you a quick example of an array. Then we're getting 3.2, and that's where we're working at right now. So let's get to 3.2. We've gone through some of this, and now we get to our. So as we get to our example in action, it's it's only 5 minutes. It's not too long.
Looking at, so that's cool. For my name, you can see what pops up in the, so that's called count.
So you can see it goes through a whole thing. Every time you're doing one of these example in action, I can't say it enough times that you should be working at the same time. Pause it when you need to. Go in and out if you need to, and make sure that you're doing the same thing. In here, they use var, which will work just fine. For future stuff, you'll want to remember, hey, maybe I should use let there. Hey, maybe like while they do their example with var, I'll try let and see if anything happens. Do stuff like that and practice and get everything. All right, so now we're going to move on to 3. Okay, so 3.3 talks about a lot of different operators, and I tried to reduce it to just a few for us to talk about here. Operators. Okay, binary operators means 2 operands, one before and one after. Infix notation, that's what we use in math a lot of times, x plus y, those type of things. So you have one on each side of your operator. The unary operators have a single operand, either before or. So unary operators are when you see this, x plus plus or plus plus x, whereas these are our binary, where we have something on either side of that operator, okay? All right, so PEMDAS, we talked about that, but then you also have a whole JavaScript operator and what goes first. So as you start to learn all of these other things, then you'll want to know, hey, do I need to memorize this chart? No, you really should never memorize it. You should just be able to go through and say, hey, which one's going to have, I'm working with multiplication, division, okay? Those are always going to be up here. And then we get down to stuff like, here's our plus plus and our minus minus we just talked about. Notice that precedence is what? Before multiplication and division. Here's our, parentheses have it over this, and we keep going. So I'm not going to talk about each thing here, but we are briefly just touch about bitwise and logical stuff and this. So there's all these different things that you may need to chart. Maybe have it somewhere that you could reference, bookmark it, something like that, just so that if you're having some weird issues on your coding, you could always come back and look and see if you've got a problem with the precedent. All right. So the assignment operator is your equal sign. It assigns the value of your right operand to the left. So x equals y means x is assigned the value of y. I like to say it evaluates the right side of the equal sign and stores it in the one on the left. So it evaluates here, stores it over there. Now in math, we could do this. We could say z equals x plus y, and we could say x plus y equals z. You cannot do that. No, JavaScript will not take that at all, because what did I say? On the right side of the equal sign, it needs to evaluate. So it would evaluate x, then it would store it in z. Over here, if you evaluate this right-hand side over here, it could evaluate z, but there's no way to store z into x plus y because that's not a variable. It's got to have something to store it in. Shortcut assignment statements. In case you like to write code, and that should be a small x, fixing for me, equals x plus y could all as x plus equal y, and x equals times y can be written as x star equal y. Means exactly the same thing. Some people prefer to always write it out. Some people hate writing extra stuff, so they like to do this. Whatever you prefer whenever you are programming. All right. Yeah, it got unstable. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my internet here. Okay. JavaScript, it also has shortcut assignment operators. Okay. So x equals x plus y, you can make it a little bit shorter and not have to double that x. So you just say x plus equal y. They're the exact same statements. They're equivalent. Prefer to write it out all the time. And again, that should be small x. I need to go fix that. Some people prefer to do this because they try to take any shortcut they can from typing. But exactly the same thing. And it's just, and if you noticed in this down here, we have all of those shortcuts. So you see that there's all of the mathematical shortcut right there too. And operators. So we've got a equal and an equal. Now right here, we were just talking about one equal sign. Okay, so we got one equal sign, we got two equal signs, and we got three. So we need to figure out what the difference is between all of these. So if you notice right here, this is where two variables were declared. They were declared and they were assigned a value. So var1 was 3, var2 was 4. Now, if I use equal, so that's two equal signs, that is going to compare side to the right side, and it will return true if they're equal. So let's look. Is 3 equal to var1? Yes, it is, because var1's value is 3. Okay, now this is where it gets weird, and JavaScript does that fixing for you. So here it says is 3 equal to 1, but it's in a string. It still says, yeah, it is. Yeah, because you must have meant the regular 3. And yeah, now it also, when you compare the actual number to string, it will still return true. So you can see where this equal could get kind of tricky depending on what kind of coding you're doing. So that's why you really want to use these right here, the strict equal and the strict not equals. These will only work if they're exactly the same. So if I tried to string 3 equal var1, it's going to return false because it is not exactly the same, because they're not the same data types. Okay, so one equal back there is assignment. Compare to see, are they same whatever I'm trying to compare, are they kind of the same? This one is like, no, they have to be exactly the same. They have to be the exact same data type and they have to completely compare. Then if you come down, got greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So all those are just your basic math. Then we have a remainder, which was called modulus. So I would take 12, I would divide it by 5, and that would send me a remainder of 2. So the result of 12 minus 5 is 2. Increment adds 1. Decrement takes away 1. And I can do x plus 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 and add 2. So there's only 2 pluses, 2 minuses. That's it. It's not like our equal signs where we also have 3 of them, okay? Exponential, you might need to use if you did notice, it is the 2 stars right here. So 2 star 3 is going to be 2 to the 3rd power, which is 8. All right, bitwise operator. Now, these are going to happen whenever we're performing stuff in numbers. Not going into them too much. They talk about a little bit there. You'll see that later on more so. Important ones that we probably will see a lot of is the and, the or, and the not. Those are our logical operators. An and, both things have to be true. An or, just one has to be true. And the not is just the opposite. If it was true, it becomes false. And if it was false, it becomes true. If you've worked with other languages like Java, you know that Java has short circuit evaluation. JavaScript does also. What does short circuit evaluation mean? Well, if I had an and, I just told you that an and has to have everything true. So if I am reading something and it has an and in it, and the very first thing I see here is false, then that means everything on this side, I don't even need to look at. I don't know, 25 other like operations over here. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to look at it because false with anything is going to be false. In the same idea, if I have an or just something has to be true, then if the first thing is a true, it doesn't matter what's on this side. I'm not even going to look at it. So any kind of operation happen, anything over here, it's not going to get done because we're going to short circuit out in some time. A unary operator that you'll see used throughout this course, especially in this little section, is going to be type of. And type of will tell you, hey, 62 is a number, this is a string, and it will give you that kind of information. So that's really the one that you see here. All right, there's another weird thing. All right, ternary operator. Ternary operator is, instead of your typical if else, you might see code like this. I had a student just recently that was looking up and trying to learn some new stuff, come to me and he's like, what is this? We talked about it. And so when you think about it, instead of writing the whole if else, which we're not really talking about yet until another section, a unit of this, how it works is that if the condition is true, then you will do val. If the condition evaluates to false, you do val 2. So it's definitely like an if else. It just doesn't have those keywords in it. So in this case, I made a var called status. It's equal to, my internet connection's unstable. Okay, let me try that again. Var status equals, if age is greater than 18, so if this is true, then adult status becomes. If this is not true, minor is what status becomes. So you see this, you do see it a lot in coding, especially if you're starting to look at some other people's code on the internet and stuff like that. You will see this, and it's people because they're looking for that if else. They're looking for that, find it, but ternary operator. And so it has 3 operands in case you didn't notice. It's got your condition, value 1, and value 2. So condition, true this, does that. All right. We talked about these. Okay. Assignment is 1. Equality is 2. Equality with 3 signs. That's the one we really want to use. The 2 equals will compare, but ignore data type. The 3 equals compares, but it also checks your data type. So that's really, really what you want to do. All right. Hold on, I'm gonna get my note of so I make sure I'm at the okay. 3 ways to declare the variables. We've done all 3 of these today. var declares a variable but gives it what's called global scope. And that's the reason we want to kind of avoid it. Let declares a block scope local variable. And constant is read only, I can't change. And we saw that earlier because I did that and we couldn't change it. It actually gave us an error. The whole var thing goes along with something that you see in this unit where they talk about hoisting. And JavaScript treats all the variable declarations using var as if they're declared top of the function or the global, wherever it is. So look at this little example right here. I'm just starting at the beginning. I said a is 5, and I did console.log a, and then I did var a, and it seems, let's go try this. Let's go over here, and hold on, let me get this out of my way. Okay. Let's clear out all this. All right, so what are we going to try? We're going to go ahead and try. I'm going to try to get this out of my way again. We're going to try to do this. We're going to say a is 5. I'm going to go console.log a. So let's do that. A equals 5. Great. Okay, then let's do what? Console.log a. Okay, let's run it. All right. 5. Great. Okay, now if I do this. And that's all they did. They just said var a at the end. And so if I did that and I hit semicolon, it doesn't change anything. All right, let's try this again, but we're going to try it with let. Okay, let's go and run it. Notice this error. I can't act a before initialization. I tried to give a value. I said a is 5, but then down here, I decided to say, oh, but I want to declare a. I can't do that. I would have to have, if I'm using let, this here, I have to declare before I try to use it. So, oops, let me get back to it. So if I get back to here, what is hoist? If I did this, it's not going to work for, but it works for var. Does that make it terrible? It just isn't a great programming practice. Okay, so try to avoid it. When you can, use let instead of var, and I think you'll see it. It becomes a habit after that. All right, really fast block statements. So here's a block. We have these curly braces. Notice I have a var up here and a let here, and I have a var in here and a let in here. So these have different scope. These are outside of the block, and these are inside the block. So when I print these, notice what happens. My let y, when it is printed, it prints the one of the block it's in. So I'm not inside the block here on my console, and it 1. Even though I am not inside the block on this var, it went ahead and grabbed that one because it has a global scope. So that's another reason to just try to not use var, because it's going to give you some weird results. All right, I'm running through this a little bit faster. Okay, so practice data types and arithmetic operators. It talks about going here, there. I think I'm running a little bit long here. So I'm not going to go thing, but I do want to show you here. We are on the practice in 3.4 for data types and arithmetic. It says the following examples demonstrate using this stuff. So I go to the next page. When I get to the next page, it tells me, hey, like this. So I can just grab it. Whoops, not that much of it. And I can come back over here and I'm going to throw it in here. And now I can play around with all this stuff that they have given me. I don't need to worry about this stuff. This is just displaying it. But I can take off the var and I can turn them into lets. I can change my numbers. I can change my strings. I can play around with everything. That's the best part of all these practice things. And then I can go to the next one and then I can play around with all this math stuff and see what's going to happen. I might want to practice modulus and make sure I know how to do modulus. Make sure I know what the output is going to be. And then I can change numbers, change things here. All right. So then after we finish that, all right, then we get to our assessment. In our assessment, 1 through 9 are going to be mixed type questions, and number 10 is using code. So I'm going to show you something quickly on Code Runner. Read all directions. Every time you see Code Runner, you're going to see word is going to be hard to see. So let me get there really quickly before we end. And all right, let's get down here to our assessment. So we're ready to assessment. We've gone through these reviews. We've tried them all ourselves. Oops, I am not logged. Let me log in. Hold on, it's logging me. All right, let's try again. Like I said, log into the other one. Okay. Back to my job here. All right, we're on unit 3. Let me get back down here into my assessment. Let me continue my attempt. All right, let me get back to, I'm going to start a whole new preview. Let me do that. All right, so questions 1 through 9. You got a mix of everything. You've got your true matching. You've got fill in the blank. Then we get to 10, which is going to be in our code runner. Our code runner, again, here it is. We've got our JavaScript, our CSS, and then we got HTML here. And you see here that we have our JavaScript inside the HTML. So always make sure and come up here and read. So it tells you, okay, here's your formula that you're going to need. So you're going to need to use that. You're going HTML pane to see all your code. So right now it's hard to see because I have to do this. Well, that's fine. I can totally bring it down here so that way I can see everything. Right, the HTML after the comments for lines 1 through. So if you see here, it says declare on one line these variables. So I'm going to pretend I'm doing this. So watch. I'm going to go let. Now you saw me type let. And when I go let and I get ready to do original currency, do you see how that you might be going, where did it go there? It's just really light blue and it's right there. So just be careful when you're doing that you make sure that you know that your let is there. You might need to highlight it, whatever you need to do to make sure you can see it. So you'll do each of these steps. And as you go through, once you get those done, what else does it say? It says to use single quotes for strings. So make sure you do that. Write the code for the alert in the JS pane. All right, so I'm going to come down here. I'm not going to use that pane. Okay, notice as soon as I typed alert, what happens? This starts coming up and it will keep coming all the time. So what you might want to do, which is what I do when I'm doing things, is I comment it out like this until I'm pretty sure that I'm done with everything and everything's good. And then I'll take the alert off and let it go ahead and run, because otherwise it'll drive you crazy because it just keeps coming up and coming up. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind as you're doing this. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. Seemed like this went forever and I just hit share instead of slideshow. Okay. Unit 4 is going to be our next cover, conditional statements and control. So you're talking some ifs, you're talking things like that. So only about 2 hours. this unit itself had a lot of content in it, and that's why I struggled with how I was going to break it up with you. We will be using if else, whiles. We're going to use the relational Boolean, so those ors that we just touched on today. And then we'll have choices that people can make based on conditions. The next live session is next Tuesday, November 29th at 5:30 Eastern. And I will make sure that my internet is working better by then. I hope everybody was able to hear it. Make sure you go sign up for the course, get going, get ready, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for taking us through all of this, and thank you everyone for joining us. And of course, as mentioned, yeah, join us next time. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Of course, there's a link to the previous videos in this series as well as the Saylor Academy course that they are a part of. So definitely go check those out. Again, Susan, thank you so much for taking us through this. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you the same JavaScript time, same JavaScript channel next week. Bye, everybody. Uh-oh.